Hello and very welcome to a new episode of The New Woman. The New Woman is a program for women very much entitled to empower and uplift women, bring them to awakening, enlightening awareness and making them into who they are supposed to be 100%. On this show we bring to us people who are empowered and who are passionate about empowering others. And the good thing is that we do not refrain from bringing gentlemen on board as well. Men who believe that women must be as empowered as any individual. Men who believe that men and women deserve equal opportunities and should be given equal chances and equal rights. One such gentleman is with us today, Sagoo, who is an entrepreneur, who is a confidence coach and motivational speaker. He is also the author of Unleash Your Inner Power. Hello Sat, and very welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sat, it's a pleasure that a man agreed to come on a totally women's show, and we talk about empowering women through this show. So thank you in that light, but also thank you for the work that you're putting out for yourself and for others to follow, as in being a confidence coach and a motivational person. And very intriguing title to your book, Unleash Your Inner Power. So to start off with, let's talk about your book. How did that come about?
Well, I've been through many challenges in my life.
Okay.
6 years ago, our 10-year marriage broke down with my then wife, who happened to realise that she wasn't straight. So that broke down, and then 6 months later, one day I woke up to find that she'd actually, I was going to take the kids to the air show. And I was all excited, and I found the cupboards were emptied out, the drawers were emptied out, the car was gone. She took the kids and eloped. And obviously I've got no bitterness against her, I'm always positive towards everybody. Things happen for a reason, you move on, but you always say thank you for the lessons.
Exactly.
I've been injured. I've had several injuries, martial arts injuries that would have needed me to go to hospital, but I refused to go to hospital and I carried on.
Wow.
I actually healed better.
Wow.
I've been in severe financial difficulty. I nearly had my house repossessed on 2 occasions, and against those odds I kept that house and I got out of financial difficulties. And that same year, only 8 months after I nearly had my house repossessed, I spent near enough £800 on my kids for Christmas that year. That was in 2016. I'd achieved a high status in my business that same year as well. I'd hit depression and anxiety and near suicidal, and I didn't go to a doctor. I self-healed and I got myself through that. So those are some of the things that I've been through. But the thing is, the message out to the world that I've been giving out is simple, is that even at your lowest point, you have that strength within you to power through that and to believe. The biggest thing is making sure you have that purpose in your life. It's all purpose, because when you have a purpose, it's the one thing that drives you forward even at your most worst time.
Exactly. And you know what, the little answer that you've given here, you've touched upon so many different layers of stuff that we have hidden and worked within our personality, the relationship with a spouse, relationship with children, financial conditions, your mental health, your awareness that you're responsible for certain things, but healing yourself, natural healing, finding the power within. And I want to talk about the whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, which is what definitely I'd like to do. So before we go into that, I know you're a confidence coach as well.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, well, it's actually a business that's building from my book. So I'm working with my mentor to build that. But basically the idea is to speak to people, to communicate with people, to communicate with clients who are at the lowest point of their life, and to empower them, to take them on the journey that I went through in terms of being able to come out of that hole that they've found themselves in and get themselves in a happier state, in a state where they feel confident within themselves, when they can believe they can actually perform better and achieve great results, not just within their business but within their personal life as well. Definitely. Because in this world today, a lot of people suffer from depression, anxiety, they go through financial difficulties, and people have even committed suicide. Chester Dennington, Caroline Flack, to name but two, who've been through exposed to the wrong type of criticism, and people were always there getting on top of them, criticising them, and it's caused them to get to such a low state they've given them upon themselves. But and a lot of people need to hear that message, that you can be at your worst state of your life, like I've been, and yet you can still come through it. But you know, you have that one life. It's not like a computer game where you die and you come back again and again and again. You have one life. You have to value every single moment like it's your last.
Well said. Exactly. That's beautiful what you've just said. You know, with confidence coaching, I understand you work with men and women.
Absolutely.
So, you know, because we tend to have our audience is primarily women, not that we're biased in any way. So what I'm asking you here is, you know, when you work with men and women, do you feel the difference in approach as a pattern generally?
That's a really interesting question that you've asked. I just want to touch that because I've never sort of seen it from that light. I've never sort of, because I think all my life I've not differentiated men from women, because for me we all live in the same world together. So why treat anyone differently? Why treat a woman differently to a man? Exactly. You know, you live in an equal world, and you know, why should one be better than another? I mean, you've got women playing football, you've got women playing sports, you've got women doing boxing, you've got women doing all sorts of things, and it makes me really happy seeing that. I don't generally try and differentiate my approach to women than to men, or to sort of see their approach differently as to men, because I've always treated men and women in the same way. You're all human beings at the end of the day. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. You've got a mind, you've got a heart, you've got arms, you've got legs. You know, there's no sort of reason why I should treat them differently. I've always treated them the same. So I've not really sort of focused on differentiating, because if I did that in a weird kind of way, I'd feel like I'm not in a bad way, but I'd feel like I'm favouring one over the other, which I'm not. You know, I want to favour everyone equally.
Isn't it a fact that we would not be discussing this, you know, sat here if that was the case with them?
Absolutely.
And I am so pleased that you've said this, and I really wish and hope one day all men would get to this, you know, level of wisdom where they'd appreciate and accept people just as people.
Absolutely.
And it's not just men, to be honest, Sat. I don't know whether you've noticed it, but in many cultural setups, women would treat other women worse than a man would.
Yeah.
And that comes down to the mould that they've been, you know, and we've been for centuries.
It is upbringing. Sometimes it's upbringing, and what happens is whatever your behaviours are in today are triggered because of things that have happened to you in the past, and that's both for a male and a female. Yeah. You know, and again, I never say that she's gone through this because of X, Y, and Z. She was more vulnerable than a bloke. No, blokes have been through the same thing. Yeah. I've been through a lifeline where I've been exposed to a lot of criticism, a lot of ridicule. Male and females can go through that, so they all go through the same motions. So which is why today it's important to treat them equally. It's important to sort of take a neutral approach to everybody, because if I'm running a confidence coaching business, I want to be seen that I'm going to be equal with my clients. I'm not going to be favourable to one or the other because of their gender. Exactly. And it's the same in relationships as well. And I'm not afraid to admit this. I've had a failed marriage. I've had 3 failed relationships. For me, it's failure in a good way, because it's enabling me to grow. But the one thing I value myself in is that in every relationship that I've had, it hasn't been a case of I'm the bloke, I do this, and I'm the breadwinner. It's always been a case of teamwork. So if we're in the kitchen, we're doing things together. One's cooking, one's cleaning. If we're in the living room, we're sitting together. If we're cleaning, we clean together. You know, we'd even help with the washing. It's not a case of the woman does that and the man does that.
I suppose.
Absolutely not.
They shouldn't be like tags on anything.
Absolutely not.
Because you're a man, you should only do this, and because you're a woman, you must do this kind of thing. And I think that's where things go wrong, because one person might have skills that are favourable for one task, and the other might have it for different, which are not gender roles.
Absolutely, yeah. Relationships are about teamwork. It doesn't male or female. It's teamwork, and the biggest thing is when where love really grows is where you take out the whole sort of stigma. Males do this and females do this.
And you know what? You're also creating positive role models for your children. Absolutely. You're teaching them how to be. You're teaching your sons how to be with their wives and daughters. You're teaching your daughters what to expect of a man. And of course you want them to have a fulfilled life.
Yeah, and not just that, but I've got to bring this up as well, and I think this is important. I don't know how strong you feel about this, and I hope you don't mind me bringing it, but also with same-sex relationships, males and females, Okay, I think this is this is just as important equally. Now, I'm going to be record and saying here that it's easy for me to hold on to bitterness about what's happened in the past in my wife, but I'm going to say right now, she's absolutely brilliant, because she's, at the end of the day, whatever's happened, she's brought up my kids well. I've learnt a lot from her, and when we was living in the house, there was times when I was in debt. She single-handedly helped keep the house going. So, and she's been amazing, and you know, no matter what happens, she's given me two beautiful children, and we're on good terms. I think that's very important. Now she's in a relationship with another woman, and in our culture in particular, that was always seen as something bad. I'm going to put this out here right now and say, you know what, it doesn't matter whether it's opposites to opposite, it is same-sex relationships. We've got to respect everybody in the world for what they are, and you know, it's a world of love, and everybody deserves equal love. You can't discriminate against somebody because of the gender and because of what they are.
We're all human beings. What right do I have to judge another human being? Unless I was perfect, which I'm not, nobody is. All of us are learning, as you said earlier. You know, the failures, the adversities we have that kick us forward, and they help us to learn ourselves, to grow into people we're supposed to, you know, become. And therefore, very rightly put, Saturn, and totally, you know, applaud you for what you've just said, that yes, definitely, one human being does not have the right to put down another human being in any form, shape or manner. And unfortunately, even now, in many cultural setups, and not just cultural setups, we've seen like at work as well, workplaces have been talking about equal pay, rights, etc., and how women are not into leadership roles as much as they should be, and you know, we still feel a bit intimidated or backlagged because of whatever it is, and we need to break all these implications of I'm only good for this because I'm a woman, or I must be like this because I'm a man. And that's what we're trying to neutralize here, because in today's world, and I always say it's unfortunate we still talk about this stuff. Right now we're in 21st century, we shouldn't even be discussing this, from you know, all the progress we've made as human beings, as a civilization.
Well, I was listening to an online interview. A lady called Olga Gadan does. She's a motivational global mindset. She was speaking with the author. I can't remember his name, but he was the author of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And he was saying a lot of things. One of the things he was saying was that both genders have a male and a female side. And the most important thing there, and I totally agree with him, is that it's important, especially when you're in a relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's a love relationship, that we've both got to have our feminine and male side come out. You can't just have one or the other. You know, I've got a bit of a feminine side in me, and you know, I'm sure a lot of women that I'm down there, I've got a male side in them. It's important that comes out together, because that's where you really get to understand each other better, and that's where you know, our relationship grows.
Somebody for who they are, rather than put tags on them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's the 21st century. It's one world. It's not a male world or a female world. It's one world. And therefore, the need for people like yourself who are open to, you know, sharing your views and discussing how important it is to understand each other's perspective as well. And it is dialogue, I believe. It is communication that can solve the issues. We can resolve, you know, whatever misunderstandings we have in the male world or the female, or whichever way you want to see it. Brilliant, thank you so much for this. Next thing I want to ask you is that you've struggled with anxiety, depression, and you were on the verge of suicide, you said. Yeah, well, beginning of this year. Now I had a really happy relationship with a woman. I loved her so much, and we were together for 2.5 years. And then I noticed a change in behaviours. And what happened was there was health concerns. She was on thyroid tablets. And her iron levels are low. So what was happening was it seemed to affect her medication. So she seemed to suddenly go off, and I was like, something's not right here. So we spoke about it, and then we agreed we'll take a back step from the relationship just to sort of tackle the issues and then come back to it when we're ready. But little did I realise that it was just getting a bit worse for her. Now, one of the things I could have done was I could have sort of looked at the issue a lot earlier, a bit more, but obviously it was what it was. And it was just coming on really quick. What was happening was she was showing menopausal symptoms. Now, I've done a lot of research on this because it's important to understand.
Of course.
What understand is menopausal symptoms are pretty bad. It kind of changes. It's almost like changes a woman to the dark side. And sometimes they're not even aware of what they're doing. So instead of me being bitter, I was able to understand that, but then suddenly things just went downhill in terms of our communication, and it led to a splitting up. And I was in a very, very low place. I was depressed. I was near suicidal. I wanted to put myself in front of a car and get hit and end up in hospital. I was really bad. And then on top of that, my very little furry best friend, my cat, died, and that destroyed me as well. And then obviously COVID coming on and everything coming on at once. Led me into a very, very low place. So I was literally sat in one place. I think for a few days I was literally sat in the same place for one day. I wouldn't move. I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't sleeping properly. I was shouting. I didn't know why I was doing it. I wasn't myself. But then I had to get a grip, and I said, hold on a minute. You've got 2 beautiful children. You're still young. You've still got a life to live out there. You know, so it just got me down to sort of rekindle my purpose. Now, I've done something funny with something very interesting with the phone. Now, we always say mobile phones are too addictive, but what I did was, mobile phones, when you have notifications, you have a standard ring and tone. What I did was, I went on YouTube and I was finding the most inspirational clips from my favourite movies. I like Transformers and I like Lord of the Rings. So I was downloading inspirational clips from them and using them as my as my notification tones. So when my phone was going off with the inspiring sort of noises, that was starting to lift me up. And then I was looking at YouTube videos. I was doing affirmations and sticking them on my wall. Brilliant. And furniture was telling me how great I am. And then only 5 days after I was at my lowest point, I revealed my book, because I thought fight or flight. I thought, I'm going to fight. So I revealed my book only 5 days after I was feeling at my lowest point. 6 weeks later, I went to London. I did the most amazing launch at my head office. Only 5 weeks later, my book became an Amazon bestseller. I've obviously appeared on radio shows. I've appeared on TV shows. I'm doing a motivational talk at a school in Chiswick later this month, and then early in the next month for years 7, 8 and 9 students. So it's just been a complete change around in fortunes. But that change around is because I made a choice, because our life is built on choices. And we can either make a choice to just sit there and feel sorry for ourselves and just think, forget it. Or we can just make the choice and say, right, you know what, something has happened. We can use those adversities as blessings and grow new flowers. And you know, when you do that, and then when you look at yourself back 10 years, sort of 8 months sort of on, you look back and you think, you know what, I'm glad I do that. And that's the big thing. Do you want to live months of regrets, or do you want to live months of sort of gratitude, the fact that you got up and you did it? As hard as it is to initially go, you will thank yourself in 8 months' time saying, you know what, I'm glad I did it.
So Sad, you've experienced anxiety in a really bad manner, and you've been suicidal, as you say. So if somebody is in that energy and is experiencing really, you know, finding it hard to carry on and be themselves, and it's all negative around them and they can't get out of it, and I understand it's a really dark place to be at. So what would you say to them if they were to turn it around? What's the one thing that somebody in that energy could do?
Well, I'm going to say first and foremost, just as a disclaimer, I'm no doctor, okay? So the first thing I would always encourage every single one of you to do is to seek advice, seek medical help when you need it. I think that's very, very important to look after yourself, look after your well-being. Having said that, also remember that you are you. You know, it's all good for us. We go and we see our doctors, we do what we need to do, so get whatever standard treatment we need to get, but at the same time also understand that you have to understand yourself, what makes you tick, and discover that and use that to power you through, because everyone's different. It's not a one-size-fits-all world.
So it's individual.
It's individual, absolutely. I mean, like with me, what I did with my phone, what I did with my affirmations, basically the most important thing is feed yourself with as much positivity. When you are down and out, that is when you need more positivity than anything else. I would always encourage you to review your circle, who you're surrounded by, because sometimes who you're surrounded by, who you're friends with. It's amazing how these things keep popping up, and we've spoken to so many different people from so many different fields, but it's almost like, you know, echoing that. Make sure you're surrounded by the correct people. Absolutely, you know, because you become like the people you're surrounded by. If you're going to be surrounded by people who want to keep you in their shell, saying, "Oh, don't worry, you know, it wasn't meant to be."
Yeah.
You're always going to be like that, but you want to review that, and you always want people who are going to lift you up, who are going to take up and say, "You can do this."
Yes.
Who are going to keep sending you that message. You need to feed yourself with as much positivity as possible, and that is the key, positivity. Like I said, with my phone, that was a creative way of me doing positivity. You will all know your different ways of how you feed yourself with positivity, but it's like your physical diet. What you eat is very crucial to your health. It's no different with your mind. What you feed your mind is very, very crucial.
Exactly.
If you feed in bad things, your mind's always going to feed out bad things. If you feed your mind good things are always going to happen.
So it's almost in alignment with this self-healing bit you were saying a little while ago.
Absolutely.
And I would definitely want to tap into that as well, know how. And is that because you're a martial arts expert that helped you?
Martial arts is definitely one thing that really contributed to it. I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm a black belt in karate, and I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay. I'm training in martial arts, extreme martial arts tricking, which is basically martial arts with a bit of acrobatics. So you can do like a flip over and a kick. I'm kind of at the beginner stages of that, but I'm being creative myself. But the discipline of martial arts has helped because I've obviously been in it for 30 years. I've had my knockbacks. I started martial arts and my toes are inverted, so my big toes go like that, and then my second toe kind of nearly overlaps the other ones. Mm-hmm. When I started martial arts, I couldn't hop and I nearly quit. It was that bad. But I've carried on and I've been in it for nearly 30 years. I can jump and do a spin kick. But that's because I've always found a way around my challenges. And that's the most important thing in anything in life, physically, mentally. No matter what happens, it's always going to be on your shoulders to find a way around your challenges.
It's really determination and dedication.
It is determination,
hard
dedication,
work, resilience, fighting back for.
And you got to remember what you have in this world. And my reason why was I've got 2 beautiful kids. If I give up on myself, I'll be giving up on them. Exactly. I'll be giving up on the people that believe in me. So if I've got a lot of people believing in me saying, "Sat, you can do this," and then if I suddenly just give up on myself and do something stupid, I'm betraying them. I'm betraying my own family. You know, if you love your family enough, you would do it for them. And I mean, my daughter, my son, two beautiful children. I know that I've gone through my hardest times and been able to go through it. I know that at some point they're going to have their challenges. Mm-hmm. So at least
all of us get our own challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then they're going to be able to say, "Daddy, how did you go through that?" And at least because I've been through it, I can turn and say, "Absolutely." Whereas if I gave up on myself, then if they said, "Daddy, how did you get through it?" then who would I be able to tell them what to do? Because I gave up on myself.
Exactly. Great. So you're a confidence coach, you say, and you take people from uncertainty to certainty, from darkness to light, from not knowing who they are to knowing who they actually are.
Not knowing who they are, being in an absolute dark situation. Like I said, it's a work in progress. It's building from my book, and I'm working with my mentor, Brenda Dempsey. But what I'll be starting in a certain field. So no, it's about knowing where I thrive. I've been in network marketing for 13 years. And a lot of my sort of inspiration has been in people in network marketing. So ideally that would be a starting place for me, but then I'll be branching out with that. But the idea would be to network with clients for them to come to me and say, "Sat, I need your help." They're in a very, very bad situation, you know, whether it's relationships, whether it's money, whether it's sort of self-confidence. And the idea is for me to help them bring out their self-worth out, for them to make them realise that they can do it. You know, that they can achieve anything, for them to grow the self-respect and the self-esteem within them.
I think it's exactly what, it is. It all starts from within.
Yes.
So there's a reason, there's a self, to the word self-love, self-belief, self-worth, self-respect.
Absolutely.
It all starts with self. So when we're looking for success, let's say, on the outside, we're actually starting from self. That is the only way out.
It is, and right now, since everything that happened, I have the best relationship with myself. I think it's very, very important to have a relationship with yourself. And
to have a successful relationship outside.
Absolutely.
In any way.
Because if you don't respect and love yourself enough, how are you going to expect everybody else to respect and love you at the same time? Exactly. When you have the best relationship with yourself, and this is my motto now, and I've learned that from experience. When you love yourself, you focus on yourself, you grow yourself, you will naturally attract the right person in your life without even having to make an effort, because people respect you for empowering yourself, for not having to rely on outside sources to feel good. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm working on myself to be the best version of myself, so I can attract Mrs. Right into my life.
Exactly.
And that's the
Sat,
idea.
I must applaud you for this, that you've come across as a very authentic, very transparent person.
Okay.
And that is how, of course you're doing it for who you are, but as you say, then you get to attract correct people in your life,
Yes.
because you want authentic people in your life.
Absolutely.
You want people who are honest and accepting of themselves, and that's the only way somebody can accept the other person as well.
Absolutely.
Unless you know yourself, and even if you don't know yourself 100%, but you accept that bit as well of yourself.
Oh, God, yes.
You accept all the parts that belong to you, that are a part of you,
Yeah.
and you embrace it wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And I suppose that's the only way of being peaceful as well.
Oh God, absolutely, without question. In a peace, it does give you inner peace. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
When you do that, when you work on yourself, when it comes from within, you feel powerful. You feel, not in a very arrogant way, but you
No.
feel you can rule the world. You feel that anything that comes at you.
It is powerful to know that, even though you can't control things around you, it's still okay.
It is, because
You can
it's,
control
it's,
yourself, how you react to
It's
it.
exactly. It's about your attitude towards it. It's like the old saying: life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond.
Exactly.
And that is life.
Exactly. It's brilliant. It's brilliant how you put it. So people who are working on their confidence, if you wanted to give them a tip to grow their confidence from wherever they are, what would that one thing be?
Find your purpose. Find your purpose and find your reason why. That is the biggest driver of your confidence. And keep feeding yourself with as much positivity, because there are times you're going to be down and out, but it's in that time where you need to find yourself. And one of the things I did was, when I was down, I remembered what I was good at, the things I did so well. Because at the moment in time, you're always going to be focused on the things that aren't going well, and because things aren't going well, you're going to have times where you curse yourself and say, I'm not worth this, I'm not doing this right. But what I did was, I always look back and remind myself, hang on a minute, what am I good at? What have I achieved to date? How far have I come? And that's a big thing. Always remember how far you have come in your life and all the good things you've achieved to date. And that reminds you that, you know what, you are an amazing person, you can do things, and you can kick on from here. And always remember that everything bad that happens to us isn't a bad thing, it's a blessing in disguise. And I've found that out the hard way. So much has happened to me, yet it's empowered me and grown me into this person that I am today, because I didn't take everything bad as a curse. I took it as a blessing. I said, you know what, I'm going to grow from this, and it's grown me, but it's enabled me to focus. Yeah, the first few weeks after it's happened is going to be hard, but that's where you have to have the willpower and the strength to say, I've got to do it. Once you get through that, then you start growing and growing. But at the same time, you've got to feed yourself with so much positivity, look at videos, read books. Another thing that I do a lot is, and I still do it today, and it helped me, was I literally had my earphones in my ears all day out, because music is power. When I was listening to my music and I was visualizing my success, that was really powerful.
That is amazing.
And then when I did that, I visualized it. So when I was at my lowest point, and I was actually manifesting and sort of saying, well, I'm going to be an author, I'm going to be popular, I'm going to be appearing in radio shows, I'm going to be appearing on TV shows, I'm going to be in articles, I'm going to be speaking at schools. I actually manifested that from the start. I actually listed it down, and I said, watch me go.
There you go.
And this is exactly what happened, because I manifested and I kept saying it to myself again and again and again. It is what's going to happen.
Now.
And what's your world is your mind pushed out. So when you say to yourself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you keep saying it to yourself 1,000 times over. You'll be amazed how much it manifests itself.
Brilliant.
But it starts with you believing.
This is amazing. This is such an amazing way of putting it, Sat. Thank you so much for this. And I really believe there are more men out there who'd like to talk about empowering all of us, regardless whether they are men, whether they're women, whether they're young adults, whether they're children. And that is what our life purpose is about, being human, being there for each other, helping out, extending a helping hand when someone needs it. So thank you so much, Sat, for coming here and sparing your valuable time, spending it with us, talking about all things that are really important. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your work as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been nice of you.